As entrepreneurs, we all want to make a difference. And I have a remarkable entrepreneur. He's become a really good friend. He is an amazing individual. And as you get to know him, you're going to hear how the lessons that he's learned at an extremely high speed that are going to be really applicable for you for launching a phenomenal business. He started in the automobile industry, opened up one service shop in 1997. And he built it into the largest independent chain in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And one of the things that just was, to me, was so remarkable is some of you might remember 2008, 2009, there was a little bit of downturn. I'm in primary business is financial services, so saw that downturn. It was real for almost everyone. Matt was able to double the number of stores during that downturn period from the 2008 to 2011. He took that opportunity to expand, and he went full cycle as an entrepreneur. We all love. And his latest company, he's gone out and done a private equity raise, and unlike most companies that raise private equity, then went on to win a whole bunch of awards, the People Choice Award for what he's doing. So remarkable individual, Matt Curry. He's going to share with us some of the lessons learned. You do not want to miss this. I'm John Bowen. We're at AES Nation. It's all about accelerating your entrepreneurial success, and we are about ready to take off. Stay tuned.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
Matt Curry, I am so excited to have you here. I met you real quick at Joe Polish's Genius Network. I read your book, and I go, I gotta have him share his insights and his energy. So, Matt, thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot for having me, John. It's really awesome to be on your show.
Well, it's such a there's so many gurus out there, and you're helping. We're going to talk about it a little later. You're coaching other entrepreneurs, and you're involved. I didn't talk about the philanthropy. You've got a lot of activities you're involved in, and you really are helping an awful lot of people. But there's so many lessons that you shared in your book, and you and I've got to talk about them since, and it's pretty amazing what you've accomplished, Matt. But and I think about it. If I were going to pick one of the hardest businesses in the world, that's one of the most competitive, it's auto repair. and tell us a little bit of how you got in there, and then really, because you started at not the highest level, and then really build it into something pretty major.
Well, I'm a big believer in beginning at the beginning. All right, so I loved cars growing up. Me and my friends were always into cars. And I started changing tires and cleaning bathrooms when I was 15 years old at the local Goodyear store, and moved my way into management, and actually moved my way up to an apprentice technician, and realized I had to be really smart to be a technician, so I went into management and sales. So I was really good with people. I was good at sales, but I learned everything about the business from the ground up. I mean, how to be the best tire changer and technician, and all the great responsibilities of running a shop, but not only the back end, but the front end, and how to deal with customers and problems and all that. So really, if you find something that you're good at, I'm a big believer in sticking with it and learning everything about it, and turning it into a successful business.
Well, you definitely did, and you ran with it. It was pretty amazing. And it's one thing to start, learning how to change tires. One of the things I always like with Michael Gerber, is talking with the other day. Many of you are familiar with his book called E-Myth, and he talks about technicians. And I grew up as a financial advisor, and I was a really good technician. You grew up in the auto industry as a technician too, but that transition from technician to business person / entrepreneur is a difficult one for most people, because we weren't wired that way. We want to you want to do a great job for your customers. You're providing a very valuable service. How'd you bridge that gap, Matt?
Well, I think in Michael Gerber's book, he talks about it. I mean, there's a lot of awesome technicians that go out and open their own auto repair shops, and they don't do a very good job at it because they don't know the business side of it. So I really concentrated on the business side. When I was 17, I went into sales and management, and by the time I think before I was 19, I was managing my own stores. And really, I just learned a lot of great lessons from a lot of great people and bosses, and took all the good stuff and used that, and saw all the bad stuff that I saw as well, didn't use any of that, okay? So I think, in Michael Gerber's book, he talks about making that transition, and for me, it was natural, okay? Because, I was good with people, I was good with numbers, and, for me, I was never that technician. I was never a really great technician, and knew I wouldn't be, but I was good in sales and good in management, and that's where I concentrated. I think, it's really important to concentrate on your strengths, all right, and not worry about your weaknesses, and that's kind of
I've always believed that one of the dumbest things we can do is focus on our weaknesses, and we can finish our career with really strong weaknesses.
Right.
We're going to leverage it. I want to go to some of the lessons. One of the things that you talk about in your book, and this whole concept of vision and planning, and many of us in entrepreneurs talk about it, but you use some tools, and you use this you talk about these big white boards and how you pull it together. Why don't you share that with our fellow entrepreneurs?
Well, so I'm kind of crazy that way. I have ADD, and like a lot of entrepreneurs, but I was actually medically diagnosed. So for me, I'm very visual, and I have a million thoughts every second. So what I like to do is in my office, I had two huge whiteboards, and in our conference room, we had 3 or 4 of them if we're in meetings. And I would take all of my ideas and put them all up on the whiteboard, not in any particular order necessarily, just get them out of my head and put them on the board, things I wanted to talk about. And then you could organize them, go back and organize them. And it was also great when you're in a meeting with, maybe some of your managers or whatever, is, not only get your thoughts, but get their thoughts, and put them all up there. And no matter what the meeting is, your meeting should have an agenda. They should have a point, a starting point, and an ending point. But then all of those things that come up, it's a great way to brainstorm and to get everything out and visualize it, and then pick out the most important things and then make order out of chaos, basically. And that's what I love doing, right? As an entrepreneur, and as an ADD entrepreneur especially, is I love to step into chaos. It doesn't scare me, it's fun, and making order out of it is a huge challenge, and I find it really fun, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people are afraid of that. So and the whiteboards really help make order out of chaos is what they do. And they get the thoughts out of your head and they put them up there as a great
I love it, because really, it is easy as entrepreneurs to get overwhelmed a bit with all the stuff going on, and once you start putting it up and take a look at it, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, yeah, we can do this, and let's prioritize that, and that's not important, and particularly getting your team involved. And you do something that Vern Harnish, Cameron Herold, and Cameron wrote a great book, Double Double, COO, famous for 800 Got Junk, and he wrote the foreword for your book, which we'll talk about. But you do something that a lot of these really gurus, and Cameron's actually was an entrepreneur in his own right in many businesses, but you do the 2-minute meeting, and you bring your group together during the day, each and every day. And Matt, that's one of the things I have not done. I know Cameron's told me, Vern Harnish has told me, and I haven't done it. I do have I got a series of companies, but virtual companies, and I'm going, but you made it work in all your businesses. I mean, maybe share with your fellow entrepreneurs, because it sounds like it was really powerful for you.
Well, first of all, Cameron is a really great guy, smart guy, and a good friend, and he, I recommend reading his book. He really has some really great thoughts to share. His deal about his vivid vision is 10 times above mine, okay? But I think it's really important to have a strong, compelling vision for your company, okay? And that's an overreaching message to your employees, your customers, your vendors, everybody. What is your company about? Okay, and once you have a good, a vision, and that vision is pretty static. It's really, mine never really changed. I'd go back every year and look at it and say, that's pretty much still what I want to do. But then you also have to have a game plan, okay? And that is how you're gonna achieve that vision, okay? And the game plan is dynamic. That will change as markets, new technologies come in, as you expand, and just different things. But the important thing about the 2-minute meeting is just keeping everybody focused. So we'd get together, usually, between 9 and 11, and between 2 and 4, we'd have a lull in the day. And I would literally stop everybody in the shop. We had 12, 15 employees at each shop, get everybody together and talk about, what's going on. Hey, we're really busy today. Make sure you test drive every car. Make sure you use seat covers and floor mats in every car. Do high quality work. Inspect every car properly. And just and maybe talk about some maybe company news or whatever if it was necessary, and get input. Maybe somebody's having a problem that day, and allow for input. And the next day it may be, hey, we're not really busy today, so make sure you test drive every car, make sure you inspect every vehicle, use seat covers and floor mats, do your best work. So it's the same message, and all you're doing is, it's what I call enforce, reinforce. You can't say something once and expect it to happen. Like, for instance, getting emails back in like early 2000, you'd get names, address, and phone numbers from every customer, but now I wanted to get emails as well. It took like 2 years of enforcing people to get 100% compliance. And so it's just enforce, reinforce. And during that 2-minute meeting every day, I'd say, look, guys, make sure you get emails from every customer. So it's very important. You can't just say something once and expect it to stick. You've got to keep enforcing and reinforcing your message. And that's what the 2-minute meeting is all about.
Well, and it's, one of the things you said in addition to the 2-minute that I think is so important is focus. I mean, we see, in business, that concept of focus. And if you can get that team, if you've got a good team, you've always had good teams, you've surrounded yourself by great teams. I've done that too. If you can get them to focus on what are the key drivers of success, and they're constantly changing, it's amazing what you can accomplish. And, the 2-minute meeting is really one of the a very productive one I've heard over and over again. The other thing I just want to bring up, we're mentioning some names. Cameron Harold, author of Double Double, good friend of Matt. Actually, I was talking with him last week a couple times, and I'm having him come out for our mastermind group of top financial advisors. But I brought up Vern Harnish, Rockefeller Habits Scaling Up. We talked to Michael Gerber, E-Myth, and one of the things Matt and I both do, and I saw, Matt, you really do this, is you're one, you don't have this sense of kind of pride of ownership of I got to know how to do it. You're going to take the best of the best and really run with it.
Well, in terms of, I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. Okay, so I've learned really early that I'm not a great detail guy. Okay, I'm not a computer whiz, okay? And like my best and highest use isn't sitting in my office reading a 100-page contract from an attorney, okay? My best and highest use is out there with my team and executing and motivating people and making sure operations and marketing and everything's running really together. So, I really recommend that you find out what your strengths and weaknesses are and don't concentrate on your weaknesses. You can't have a strength without a weakness, and vice versa. So concentrate on what you're good at and hire or surround yourself with other people who are good at what you're not good at. Okay, and so I think if people can make that shift in their mind mentally, you're going to get a 10 times or 100 times return on that.
Yeah, and it's because it's so tempting to really believe that you have to be the best of the best, for everything, and there's just no way. I mean. You can't do it. But one of the things you do, Matt, and this is how you and I met, is hanging out in a peer group of fellow CEOs at Genius Network. But you've got a history of doing it, and and all as you built your business and so on. Tell us your experience, and then what would you recommend to your fellow entrepreneurs, both on the peer groups and coaching side?
Well, I think both are really important from a networking standpoint as well as just, continuous education, okay? You need to be learning and reading and hanging out with cool people and having awesome experiences. At one point, though, I mean, I was in a 20 group with 20 other automotive business owners nationwide, and we got together 3 times a year and shared best practices, best ideas, went through each other's financials, held each other accountable, and that was really powerful. I was in that group for I think almost 7 years. And I'm in the Genius Network, I'm in Cadre and Mavericks. Okay, at one point though, I was in like 6 different groups, and something had to give, right? Because you got to work. You know? So, so you don't want to, you want to do stuff that's going to be impactful, okay? That's going to have meaning, and it's going to give something back. You don't want to be in a group just to be in a group. You can't be in the Chamber of Commerce, BLI or whatever it's called, Vistage, Maverick, Genius Network. It's too crazy because you got to concentrate on your business. So I'd say pick the 2 or 3 groups that are most important, that are going to have the most impact on you. Hanging out with cool people like John Bowden, and learning from the best, and and Joe Polish and all those guys, Yannick Silver and Cameron. It's just, that's where you're going to get the most bang for the buck, and the most return. So don't be in a group just to be in a group.
Yeah, I think, you've got to have a purpose, and that's, it's so easy to get involved. One of the reasons I'll give a plug for Joe's group, I had worked with corporate in the financial services side and wanted to market directly to financial advisors. This was maybe 6 years ago now, and I didn't know what an SEO was. I didn't know videos. I had no email lists. I now have over 300,000 financial advisors. We're doing 100 webinars a year. We've got all kinds of marketing automation, and the business has grown 3 or 4-fold since then. And it's a virtual, and I have no employees. And it's like, it's an amazing what you can accomplish, but be in the right groups, and one of the things you want to be in is you want to be, I still remember, Matt, I had one of the guys put his arm around me in the very first meeting, and I just turned 60, and I think he was 30 or something like that. And he saw that I didn't, quite know this stuff, and he put his arm around me. He says, "John, you really impressed me." And I said, "Why?" Phil, and he goes, "Well, for an old guy, you're willing to learn." Well, I don't care what age you are, hanging out with the people who are driving to make a big difference, it's just so invaluable. And I saw, with all the groups that you've been in, and I'm in 3 now too. You got to be really careful, because you can, any more than 3 or 4, there's value, but you're not gonna, you actually gotta show up and execute on this stuff too.
That's right. And you want to be in groups where you're really, hopefully, the dumbest guy in the room.
Well, and you and we could find those groups without any problem. And, that's actually, I got the aesnationaboveme.com. That's why we created this virtual mastermind group too, is to share. You can do some of it virtual, but really rolling up the sleeves, getting together with guys. I mean, one of my favorite, I was in what was a predecessor to Vistage, Tech. And it was a little bit like your auto group. I didn't, we weren't all in financial services, mostly high tech, because I'm in Silicon Valley. But it was 15 of us, and we shared our financials every month. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like having 15 guys and gals that are driven entrepreneurs sharing, the bullshit stops right away. And there was a lot of good advice. And I got a couple master's degree, an MBA in finance, one in tax. And I learned more I was in it for 4 years during that period. So I really encourage people to, find the right group.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you don't want to be in a group that you're the smartest guy in the room, and having a good variety of people with a bunch of different backgrounds is really important too, because it's really like a fraternity, like Joe's group or Maverick. I can reach out to somebody like, I don't know much about SEO. My wife does. I mean, she's a marketing, our chief marketing officer, but if there's something we need to know, we can just reach out to somebody who's an expert, right? And get, pretty much free advice, and then sometimes hire them as well. So I think having a really high level group, or a couple of them, is really important.
Particularly that connect you. And Yannick Silver, he was in strategic coach with me for a while, and Yannick is a great guy and just extremely well connected. And it's finding those groups where everybody's helping each other be more successful, because it's kind of rare, as an entrepreneur. I don't know about you, Matt, but some of your drinking buddies have no idea what you do. Type
Oh my
thing.
God. Judy says that all the time. Judy's like, oh my gosh, like in her church group or Bible study, she's like, well, I got to go to work or whatever. And they're like, well, what do you do? And she's been our chief marketing officer for 15 years,
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. So, yeah, I think, I'm going to a group. I'm in Cadre DC, which is Derek Coburn's group. And we're going out. We're doing an Escape DC. We're just going to go out and have some fun.
Yeah.
So
Well,
some of it's not all business. It's developing really impactful relationships and deep connections.
yeah,
as
and
well.
Derek, actually, one of the first podcasts I did was with Derek, and he's a fellow financial advisor and has
Right.
built in, this really powerful networking group or connection group in the Washington, D.C. area. And, if you can't find the right group, you can be like Derek and actually start it too.
Yeah, he's like a great connector. Just like Joe and Yannick, all those guys. I mean, they're awesome. Awesome connectors. If you ever need anything, they're there.
Well, let's go on. One of the things that you do that's a little different than some of the other groups, you test and you use personality tests, or I think you do because you recommend it in your book. Matt, tell me, what you do or how you do that, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that don't bother with that as they're bringing in people.
Well, so as we started expanding and we were looking at some of the stores that were doing really, really well and some of the stores that were maybe struggling a bit, we thought, what can we do to, make sure that we have the best people and the best seat on the bus, so to speak. And what we did is we started doing Myers-Briggs testing, and we tested myself as well as some of my top management and sales guys. And what we do is we're making a hire, especially like that, not so much for technicians, because technicians we could really vet pretty easily, but mostly for management and sales. We wanted to have people that duplicated what our best salespeople were, personality-wise. So we thought that was really powerful, and it helped quite a bit. It really did that. I'm all about, in my business, okay, it was all about making, things scalable and repeatable. Okay, I wanted to, there couldn't be 10 Matt Currys or 10 of my best managers. So we had to make everything scalable and repeatable. And we did that through having rigorous policies and procedures. I mean, it was the same way no matter what store you went to. And we did that by trying to have the same personality types as well. So I think that's a pretty powerful tool that if you're looking for somebody, if you think you're the best at what you do, or you have people on your team that are the best at what they do, try and duplicate them and make them repeatable. Kind of clone them,
And you were doing it. You put the systems in place so that you can have, the exact same experience for the clients and customers. But you got to have the right people, and boy, these personality tests have gotten so good, and it's not, they're not perfect, but they're a great filter with all the different people you can have a conversation. Talking about systems, one of the things that I was really impressed with, Matt, is this whole concept of saying yes to customers, and you share some experiences along the way in your book, and personally you've shared, but where does this mindset of saying yes come from?
It's kind of always been there. That's kind of been in my wheelhouse since day one. I think if you're, whether I was working for somebody else before I started my business, or whether certainly in my business, you got to be in the affirmative mindset when a customer calls. I mean, we spent $500,000, $750,000 in marketing, getting people to come in the door or getting them to call us, okay? And some of my stores were super busy, and people would call in and say they needed a simple oil change, and I'd be listening to phone calls, and I'd hear no, be like, what the hell's going on here, Spending all this money to get people in the door, and I know they're busy, but I think, so we actually had an internal marketing campaign that we started that says, say yes to an hour or less, okay? So if you're really busy, you call my stores, it's like, sure, I can do that for you. When would you like to come in? I'd like to come in at 3 o'clock. Well, we can't do it at 3, but how about at 4? So it's being, having a mindset in the affirmative, and having an internal marketing campaign, even if it's not in your wheelhouse. For instance, we didn't do body work, okay? We were mechanical repairs, tires, and all that. And but if somebody called for body work, we'd say, sure, we can take care of that for you. We'd take it to a friend of ours shop, or we'd refer them to somebody else. Either way, it's a yes mindset. The more times you say no to a customer, you can only say no a couple times before they're going to stop calling you, right?
Yeah.
They're calling you because they have a problem they want solved, and it's your job to solve that problem, no matter what it is, and whether it might be helping them by bringing them somewhere else, or giving them a referral, or hey, bring it to me and I'll bring it to my friend's body shop for you. So I think it's super important, and there's a lot of businesses out there that they say customer service is dead, and all you have to do is have an affirmative mindset for your company and the power of yes, and that'll take you a long way, man.
It's so powerful that when you really, even if you can't do it, you're not the right person to do it, that
Right.
pointing them in the right direction is so valuable, because they're going to come back to you. It instills confidence. And so often we're kind of, we get in this is our circle or square, and if it doesn't fit quite in, we're not going to do it.
Right.
And I'll tell you that I had an episode yesterday in my own company. One of my people forgot that, and it's just like, it's there. We're in a very premium. I mean, the lowest price thing we have is $24,000. So I mean, you got to be,
Right.
yes on a lot of things. And if we're not right, it's okay. You don't say no. You just say, okay, let me point you in the right direction. And
I don't know, but I'll find out.
yeah, and
You know what I mean? And so, but it's going to leave the customer. It's going to give you a lot more credibility in the customer's eyes, and they're going to come back to you because they're going to value your opinion and your
well, let me
advice.
go to the next segment, which is the book of the day. And I'm excited about this because, Matt, I really, I read an awful lot. And when we first met, you gave me your book, and I'm going, oh, am I going to read it? And it's a relatively short book, From Phoenix to San Jose. I think I got it almost done, but I didn't stop. If I could have driven and held it up, I would have read it, finished it there. I finished it the next day. But it's a great book. Let me put it up on the screen. And it's the ADD Entrepreneur. It's a best-selling book with Amazon. It's, you can see it's 5-star. It's a great book. And what motivated you to do it, and what are the readers going to find in this, Matt?
Well, I had a lot of friends, motivate me, saying, Matt, you got to write a book. I mean, everybody knew that I was ADD and all that stuff. And like they would say, hey, my kid's ADD. I'd love for you to write a story. And after I sold my company, I had an awesome exit. I had an 8-figure exit, sold to a publicly traded billion-dollar company, and I didn't have anything else to do, right? No, so I always wanted to get the story out. And I think there's a lot of, a lot of great business lessons in there in terms of having a yes mentality for you and your company. Talk about hanging out with Richard Branson and the yes thing. All right. So I gave a presentation on Necker Island with Richard was there. And when I got done, he's like, brilliant. He said, that's the way, at Virgin, the Virgin Group, he said, the answer is yes. What is the question? Okay. So there's a lot of great books in there. We talk about sales, the 5 C's to selling. Okay. How to get inside somebody's brain to make them say yes. So there's two ways that the yes thing works. It talks about keeping, and you know a lot about this, John, the financial integrity of yourself and your company, how important that is. And then there's just a lot of fun stories in it as well. So it's a quick read. It's about an hour and a half long read, I think. But there's a lot of a lot to do with my story, but I think a lot of powerful business lessons in there as well. So yeah, it was a Wall Street Journal bestseller and #1 in Amazon in 9 categories. That was pretty cool.
It is a great book too. I'm going to encourage everybody to go to it because it's a Matt, you're kind of you really share your journey and a lot of lessons there. But let's go to the next segment, which is the application of the day. And Matt, your fellow entrepreneurs are wondering, on your smartphone, what do you use, that you want to share with your fellow entrepreneurs?
In about the last year or so, I downloaded Audible, and I love it because you can listen to books. So I like to walk every day or do some type of exercise or driving, whatever I'm doing. And you can put it on like 1.5, and I'm all about efficient, which is what I love about it. I'm all about efficiencies. In my shop, we talk about creative destruction, which is in the book as well, about how when things are good, breaking them down and making them even better. So Audible allows you to listen to a book, up to 50% faster, and which I love. And you can just listen to a lot more. And it's like we talked about earlier, it's about always trying to educate and improve yourself. So Audible is a great application. It's nothing new. I'm sure a lot of people have it, but it's changed my life a little bit. I like to read as well, but sometimes you can't read, so you just listen.
It's a great tool, and there's just so many times where, we've got our smartphone and we're out walking, jogging, or doing something, and just putting a book on that you've been meaning to read, and and I have learned the increased speed. You can also do it with podcasts. You can do it, with us here today, and crank it up a little bit, and past 1.5. At 2, you can't really too much chipmunky, but it does work. Let me go to the next segment, which is resources. And Matt, if let me pull up your website. For the listeners and viewers here, your website is a-of-curry.com. And remember, all the links are at AES Nation. We'll have the show notes, the transcripts, and so on. Matt, you are really out to help business owners, and you're also doing speaking engagements as well. Tell us a little bit about what the viewers and listeners will find at your website.
Well, you'll see some video clips of me speaking. I've spoken at the UN and Georgetown University School of Business and a bunch of other places. So you'll see some videos. You can buy the book through my website. It talks some fun personal stuff, me cage diving, great white sharks, and hiking Machu Picchu, and jumping out of airplanes, and doing crazy stuff. But you'll learn a little bit about me, a little more about me, a little bit more about my philosophies in business, some video clips if you wanted to hire me as a speaker, as a consultant, and there's a lot of good information on there. You can also download I think 3 free chapters of my book if you go to the website and sign up.
Yeah, I might just say buy the book. I mean, make the investment. It's not that much money here to go. Let me wrap this up with the last segment here, which is key takeaways. And I'll tell you, I've got a whole bunch of notes that I've been taking, and the very first we talked about was vision and planning as entrepreneurs. We've got to realize, there's this concept, I don't even know who I can give attribution to, but as entrepreneurs, we make it up first. Okay, you got to make it up. The second is you got to make it real. And the third is you got to make it reoccurring, which is really scaling it up. And Matt, you've done great on that. You took the whiteboard, you're working with your team, you're making it up, you're putting it, in the shops and the multiple shops, making it real. And then that, as entrepreneurs, if we want to have an 8-figure or more, there's nothing like, Matt, I mean, it's a pretty amazing time when you go full cycle. I don't know about you, but when I did get the check doing that, it's good. Now, the other thing, though, is you joked about the book. It's also like, what do I do next? Is the other, because you don't have all the team and all the support staff. And your wife worked with you. Mine did. And trying to get her to do things for me. And she got tired of going out to lunch. So you got to then start another business. But you got all these lessons. But, really use that whiteboard, number one. Number two, focus, focus, focus. Matt talked about focus and scaling up, and in that 2-minute meeting, rally your team, whatever methodology you use, get your team to never forget what's the most important thing of the day. And, oftentimes it's the most important thing for 365 days out of the year. And then third, Matt and I would have met unless we were in peer groups. I got to tell you that it's changed my life. It will change yours. But pick the right ones that you want to have people that have walked the path before you that you want to go, or at a minimum are walking the path with you. You definitely do not want to be the smartest guy in the room. Personalities tests as you're scaling up. Use these tools. They're so effective at creating filters and screens. And then, hey, your customers, your clients, they deserve a you saying yes and your whole team. Matt, I want to thank you. This has just been really great. I'm going to encourage everybody to go. I'm going to point, aesnation.com. We've got the transcript, the show notes, all the links to everything Matt and I talked about. Get Matt's book. Reach out, look at his website, A Dash of Curry. Got some great tools there. And above all, execute, execute, execute. Your clients, all those future clients, they're counting on you. Don't let them down. We wish you the best of success.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. aesnation.com